still eat. Also your potato chip crunching, that's okay. Don't mind me. But, and this one's going to be pretty short. I want to talk to you a little bit about what you need to be doing in order to get ready for responsive design. But first, I want to go through a little bit of a history lesson. And all during history, you always see that there are some pendulum shifts where you go from one end of an extreme to another. Who remembers the very first time they ever got on the internet? The internets. All right, I remember it was 1994. I had one of those little bitty Macintoshes. I had a disc from America Online. It was stuck in. I had a modem that I plugged into the wall. You dialed up a local number and it went and then of course you heard the ubiquitous whoa, you got mail. And that was the internet, and it was cool. And we'd never seen anything like it before. It had been around in the government for probably 10 or 15 years before that. But this was the first time the public was actually able to see things. And I tell my kids that, and it really is sort of like when you remember your grandmother or grandfather telling you that you had to walk to school in the snow. We had to actually call this number and dial in, and sometimes you couldn't get through, and it was just really hard. And they're looking at me like, well, no, Dad, I just turn on the laptop and there it is. No. So I refer to this first age. This is just the internet according to Peter. So this is not anything that's really scientifically or academically stated here. This was the Stone Age of the internet. This is one of the earliest websites that's actually still online on the internet. And as you see, we have not progressed too far from Gangnam Style and LOL Cats. This is a really cool website on how to make blowtorches out of strawberry Pop-Tarts. And it's still online, so if you want to go try this out, yeah, you can go do it. And it's pretty simple. You got your header up here. Remember when all the hyperlinks used to be blue and underlined? You have a couple of subheads. You've got some images. And that's really all there was to a website. No Flash, no CSS. This was just really straight HTML. It was the web in its infancy, using stone tools, arrowheads, all that sort of thing that you see in Stone Age material. What's kind of interesting, though, going to what Christina was talking about, let's put this in a mobile device and see what happens. We got responsive design! Wow, it works! This looks really good because there's not a lot of stuff that was really polluting the web environment back then. It was text, not a lot of markup, and so this is an iPhone simulator, and when you pull this up, everything still looks pretty good. I mean, it's not a pretty web page to begin with, but you'll be able to read it okay. The next stage I call the holy crap age. And this was when it got fun. During the 2000s. Where you have just really cool websites. I mean, look at this one. Boom! Wow! Zap! I mean, look at this. Things flying around. You have a cursor, you move the cursor, and the stars move. And then there's something down, I don't know what this is. There's some sort of movie going on down here. I don't even know what the website is, but it's really cool, you could log on to somebody else's computer and play Frogger. You could play with other people online in terms of, online gaming. You could watch movies online. There were all sorts of things because bandwidth was getting bigger. No longer did you have the screeching of the 14.4K modem or the 28.8. Suddenly you had ISDN, which was, wow, it's pretty fast. And then you had DSL, really fast. Cable modems, T1s, fiber. I mean, suddenly there was this big pipeline that you had, and you could do pretty much anything you wanted to with it. But that came sort of as a price. When people started figuring this out, they started figuring out, oh, well, we can develop our own standards. We can do what we want, and we can make a rich media environment and make money off of it. You saw Adobe come out with Flash. You got Microsoft Silverlight. You remember Real Media Player, Windows Media Player. I mean, all sorts of proprietary plugins, extensions that you had to download. You had Internet Explorer 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we're on 10. Netscape was replaced by Firefox. Opera came along. Google decided to get into it. You got Chrome. And suddenly you had so many different browsers, so much, and each one of them, of course, had their own quirks. So all of you developers out there, knowing all the little tricks as to how to make something look good in IE6 and still make it decent in IE8. Sometimes it was like pulling your hair out. It was an exciting age, but it was really difficult from a design standpoint and from a development standpoint. So now we've reached sort of the Middle Ages. I wanted to call this the Dark Ages, but it's not quite so dark because mobile technology is really cool. There's a lot of things you can still do. You can go search for a dry cleaner within 5 miles of where you are. You can search for a dry cleaner 25 miles from where you're going to be. You can order pizzas. I've got an app for Saigon Cafe where I can order Thai food from my iPhone. That's crazy. But the things are so little, the processor's not as robust as what you get with a desktop. And the speeds just aren't quite up to par yet. These are stats from 2011 and 2012 showing the 4 major mobile carriers. And yeah, you got 1.6, 1.4, 2.5. They got a little better. I don't know what happened to Sprint. But it really hasn't caught up with where we were with cable and even with a T1 connection. Like if you're here at work, things get to be kind of slow, and it's kind of crazy in the year 2013 when we've got a device where we can do pretty much anything, and you're sitting there going, "Hurry, hurry! Why is this so slow?" It's a little maddening, but that's the way it is, and it's worse in the United States than it is anywhere else. Does anybody want to hazard a guess as to where the United States ranks worldwide in internet speed? I will give you a hint. Well, I won't give you a hint, but I know there's a T-shirt involved. 4? 29. Come on, this is like roulette. You can just throw out a number.
10, 15.
All right, who said 10? Okay, it was 9. So T-shirt for Pam. Yes. We're 9th in the world in internet speed. We're behind Latvia. We're behind Switzerland. We're behind the Czech Republic. So we're supposed to be number 1 in everything, right? No, we're slow. We're very slow. And that was even an improvement over the year before. I think we were even lower than that. So we're getting a little bit better. So speed's a problem. And the device that you're using, whether it be a tablet, whether it be a mobile device, there are some concessions that you have to make. So what does that mean for us? I mean, this is another big carrier. This is what we've been talking about. Mobile. Every talk we go to, we try to go to a lot of technology talks. Christina and Nikhil mentioned Ethan Marcotte. We go to an event apart, which is a big conference of the web gurus who just sit and pontificate about what's new and what's big. And yeah, they've been talking about this for years. But we've got to start thinking like this. I mean, we're going to try to make the technology there for you and to be available through responsive design. But as Christina said, that's only half the effort. You've got to start thinking about your content in a mobile aspect. Every decision you make, you need to start thinking, well, what's this going to look like on a mobile device? If somebody wants to have a big flash presentation up online, you need to be the one who raises your hand and says, whoa, Flash doesn't work on an iPhone. Flash doesn't work on an iPad. What's another thing we can do here? Can we use HTML5 to do something? What's something that will allow us to get the biggest number of devices, especially mobile? And we're going to talk a lot about content, about how to make content better suited for the mobile. But getting into this mindset where you think about mobile for every decision you make regarding your website content is very important. So it's cleanup time. I've got 2 kids, and every time we clean house, within 2 hours, it's a disaster. Who knows that? Can I hear an amen, right? Yeah, it's like that because they use it a lot. They don't keep it maintained in their rooms, and if you don't keep up with it, then it gets to be a mess. And a lot of websites are kind of like this, where you just kind of let it sit. It's sort of like you build it, you leave it alone, and okay, every once in a while somebody will call you and say, "There's a broken link. Can you fix that?" Okay, yeah, I did that. Some of the content probably has been up there 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and maybe has never been touched, maybe has never even been evaluated. And when you keep adding and keep adding, what's that show about hoarding on?
Hoarding.
It's called Hoarders. It's about hoarding. Yeah, you start like climbing on stuff, and there's just too much stuff in your house. I guess you got to buy a bigger house, but don't get a bigger website. You need to just get rid of some stuff, maybe. Do some of that cleanup. So I have created a task list for you. My kids have a chore list, so this is our chore list. And I'll go through each one of these, talking a little bit about some things that you can do. Anybody who went through the Drupal migration a couple of years ago, anybody who has come on board on the platform in the past year or so, knows about what a content inventory is. Just in case, I will go ahead and give you a definition anyway. Content inventory, well, it really is exactly what it sounds like. It's an inventory of every single piece of content on your website. For some of you, it may be pretty easy. You may have 40 or 50 items on your website. And so what you do is you open up an Excel spreadsheet and you list every single piece of content. Somebody from DHS here? DCH? Y'all are probably going, no, 5,000 pieces of content. And there are tools that can help you do that. It can help you at least list out the pages that you have. But figuring out what's really out there, you might be surprised at what's really lurking in the back of your closets. And of course, if you're on the platform, you've also got access to Google Analytics. So if you want, it'll make it a little bit more of a chore, but then you can start matching up your content with the number of page views. And those really cool mission statements that you put up online 6 years ago about what our values are, if they've been visited 3 times in the past year, well, does it really need to be up there? Sometimes that's a political decision. Got to put our vision and values up there. But there are probably some things up there that just haven't been touched, haven't been read, haven't been looked at. And so then you can start making decisions as to whether it needs to be up there in the first place. Whoever the subject matter expert is within your agency may go, well, no, it has to be up there because, well, I wrote it. It's important. But you've got analytics behind you. You say, well, it may be important, but nobody's really looking at it. And so you can make some decisions as to what to purge, what to keep. That will help clean up things. It's like, let's go back to the hoarding and my 2 kids. Every once in a while, we'll take away all the, put all the stuffed animals in one big pile and say, okay, what do you want to get rid of? What do you want to keep? Did you not play with this in 2 years? Okay, yeah, let's get rid of it. Or sometimes they go, no. But it's a lot easier to deal with 20 stuffed animals than it is 50 stuffed animals. Sarah, do you have a question?
I was just thinking with some of the leadership that won't work. That'll just make them move to the homepage.
Move to what?
They'll want you to move their content to the homepage.
To the homepage.
You tell them nobody's looking at it, they'll say, well, let's move that.
Right. Let's move it. Let's make it even bigger. And yeah. And there even, but then, from there are even some really cool tools. We use one called Crazy Egg. It's a software as a service. It's online, and you basically put a little bit of code on your site. Is it a module? Drupal module. It's a module you can actually put on your site, and you can actually, for a home page, so let's say we put the mission statement up on the home page, and you can actually track and see where people are clicking, actual clicks on the website. And it's kind of funny because sometimes there'll be a click over all the way on the right-hand side. I guess somebody was just fell asleep while they were browsing or something. But you can also get a really good idea of the links and the content that are being clicked. And so even then, let's say you move it to the front page, you can still say, yeah, but nobody's still looking at it. And we've had that. A lot of our decisions on Georgia Gov were based on, for the homepage, what things we thought were important that nobody was clicking on. And so, yeah, we made that hard decision to go ahead and get rid of it. Simplify, simplify, simplify. I'm a journalism major, so I really take this to heart. And you probably, if you've been in government for a while, you've probably heard a lot of the, I think Al Gore even started it, about trying to make government information more accessible, more readable. So, it's gotten better, but it hasn't gotten a lot better. We're in government, and we tend to use lots and lots of big words. I don't really know why, but it's been like that. I used to be in public relations and for some state agencies, and they would give me web content, and I would run it through a readability checker, and it would be like 14th grade. There's not a 14th grade. Because it's like sophomore in college, in order to read this. I mean, the New York Times, which everybody thinks is the big hooty-tooty newspaper around, 8th grade level. An 8th grader can read it. And here we are putting up content that, you have to have a high school diploma and above in order to read. And I would point that out, and they'd say, well, that's okay. Whoever's reading it, they'll understand. Yeah. What Christina said about, people accessing it the way they want to, trying to give good customer service, assuming that your constituents can read something at that level is a bad assumption. And so if you can say something easier, shorter, please do it. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, obviously clarity. You just want to be as clear as possible and then try not to muddy up things. But we're, again, in an age where bandwidth is starting to not be as great as it was. Remember my little history of the internet. Does anybody have a cell plan where your bandwidth is capped? Good. Okay, cool. There are some out there where you're capped at maybe 1 gig a month. And after you hit that, you're going to start being charged more or just, really shut down off of it. So, the users want to conserve every single kilobyte and byte of information that's out there. Everything that you type, every word, every paragraph, every sentence, actually adds to the load, page size, and the load time of that page. So I'm not saying if you change one word, it's going to magically change everything. But if you start really looking at all your content and making it shorter, making it easier to understand, easier to digest, that's going to decrease your page sizes, which is going to decrease the page load times, which is going to make your users much, much happier. So really a couple of reasons for that. Simplifying menus. When you had the desktop, you had a lot of horizontal space. We tried to limit, during the Drupal migration, saying you can only have 7, but then we gave you a utility menu up at the top, and we gave you a footer down at the bottom, so you had a whole lot of choices in terms of your information and your information architecture. Where does everything live? But with a mobile device, Christina showed you how everything will come down and fly out if you click the hamburger icon. But the more things that come down, the more difficult it is going to be for those users to actually find what they're looking for. We're really more in an age where we're searching instead of browsing. Everybody remember the old Yahoo where you would go and you'd find music, and then you'd find 1980s music, and then you'd find new wave, and then you'd find Kajagoogoo, and then you'd find the lyrics to Too Shy. Yeah, that was hard to do. It was really hard, and if you clicked on New Romantic instead of New Wave, you were just lost, and you have to start over. We're sort of out of that now, and especially with a cell phone, it's so easy to go up hit the search button, type in what you need, and find things. So if you try to make those menus a little bit more compact, look at how your content's organized, and try to see if there's some things that you can combine, make simpler. We can help with this. This is one of the things that we can do. We can actually bring users in and see how they organize your content. Again, that's one thing we're like, whoa, no, this is our content. We know how it works. We know how to organize it. But it's not about us. It's not about our website. It's about the users. So we perform what's called a card sort, where we actually give them everything that's on the website and say, here, how would you organize it? And you might be shocked at what comes up. But the easier you make that, the easier you're going to make it on your users. Yeah, Sherry, this is this is a big one too that leadership may go. Simplifying your purpose online. Now, I'm not saying simplifying your purpose as an agency. I mean, that's something that the commissioners will go out in some navel-gazing session in a retreat center and try to figure out who they are. You have no control over that. But what is it exactly you want your users to do online? It's not like you're throwing every single strand of spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. There are certain things that all of your users, or 80% of your users, are going to want to do online. If you start focusing on that, focusing on those 80%, meeting it with really, it's 80-20. 20% of the content, you're serving 80% of your needs. Maybe you don't have to have every single thing that used to be up on there. Try to figure out what your users are wanting to do, and then really trying to tailor your content and the way your website works based on those users' purposes. So, just so I'm clear, everybody understand? Simplifying, right? Simplifying. Who has read this book, The Elements of Style? I know you're a communications person. You two are communications. You're a communications person. This is the Bible for any journalist, any communications person. I think I've bought 3 of them now. Mine get dog-eared. I spill coffee on them. And it's on every single reporter's desk. I think this was written in 1919. Back when you think that there was a lot of flowery prose and you can't read big sentences because they just have a lot more words back then. The big thing you get from Strunk and White's The Elements of Style is omit needless words. It's almost 100 years ago. He was saying it then, and we're still saying it now. If there's an easier way to say something, say it. Get this book. Just get it. It's a good way to understand how the English language works, how you can write more succinctly. Give it as a birthday present, Christmas present to your communications staff, writers, everything. It's wonderful. Let's talk about chunks. We love cookies at Georgia Gov. Every chance we get, we go find cookies. And not just any cookies. It's got to be good cookies. We go to the Sweet Auburn Market. We get the big Toll House cookies, and the little cookies with the little chocolate chips just don't do it for us. I mean, this is America. Everything's bigger and better. We have to have chunks, right? Chocolate chunks. We like to digest things in chunks, and it's the exact same way with content. Not having just one big mess of content. Not having any excitement. Every time you bite into a chunk, it's fun. You got to have some chunky content, and I'm going to show you how to do that. A recipe for Chuckie Content. You see all these really cool chocolate chunks in there? That's what we like. And this is what you need to do, is to start chunking the content into sizes, bits of information that people can understand. Catchy headlines. We don't really do a lot of that. I mean, that's usually for CNN, maybe the Huffington Post does some cool things, but they're eye-catching. And there are lots of different articles online, especially regarding blog writing, on how to create headlines that catch people's attention. If you're if you have some long article on getting your child ready for kindergarten, okay, maybe a couple people would look at that. But 15 things you need to know before your child enters kindergarten. People love lists. So start thinking of those things in a way that will catch people's attention. If it's 20 things people need to know, well, at least they know it's probably going to be a longer article than 5 things you need to know. So you're giving them actually a little bit of information on how long the piece could be, what types of things, whether it's a list, whether it's recommendations, a how-to. Those types of things really make a difference when people are looking over your site. People scan web pages. They don't actually read everything. Plus, the whole Google search, the secret sauce that they use to determine what goes up in search engine rankings helps a lot there as well. Use subheads. If you've got a long article, long piece of content, a lot of gray, try to break it up a little bit. Every 2 or 3 paragraphs, especially if there's sort of some change in subject or some change in topic, use a subhead that introduces something. So let's go back to our 15 things your child needs to know before entering kindergarten. Let's say one of them, they got to get vaccinations, right? Make sure the vaccinations are up to date. A perfect subhead would be vaccinations. Get your kid vaccinated. That lets the people know that this is something a little bit different now, and I need to pay attention to this. Also with Google search engine rankings, subheads count a lot. Anything that's in like a big H1 header tag, your headline, is important. But the subheads, which are in smaller H2, H3 type formats, are also very important. And it gives a little bit of context to that web page too. So if somebody is searching for kindergarten and vaccinations, suddenly you've sort of got a double whammy there, where your content may actually show up higher because you are treating those 2 things not equally, but with a lot of importance. And it breaks up the content so that it's much easier to look at. Bullets. You've seen a lot of bullets on web pages. Bullets, numbered lists. People love those things because they don't have to read a lot. We don't read on the web anymore. And my father's an English professor, and he's just distraught over this. He's like, no, you need to sit down and read a book, and if there's an article on the web, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read the whole thing. But no, it's an ADD world. We've got Vine. We're watching 7-second videos over and over. Our attention span is just tiny. So making it easier for them, again, going back to the user, making it easier for them by digesting simple things that you need to know. And bullets are a good way to do that. If you're doing any kind of step-by-step thing, how to do this, a numbered list. Number 1, you do this. Number 2, you do this. Okay, people understand that. They have to do number 1 before they do number 3. It's really easy for them to get. And again, usually the numbers in the bullets are indented. There's usually some space there. The bullets are dark. Breaks up all of that boring gray text, and it really brings attention to things. And then finally, bolding any kind of keywords. So back to the education example. It's very important that your child do this. You can't forget this. Those are pretty important phrases. If it's buried in the middle of a paragraph, are they really going to see it? I don't know. If you bold it, yeah, then they do know it's very, very important. And so it adds a little bit of contrast. It brings their attention. And if there is something on the page that you really want them to see, that will help. This is what we call a popular topic on Georgia Gov. This is something new we started when we launched the new version. The 50 most popular topics that people search for on Georgia Gov, that people call to 1-800-GEORGIA about. We took that list and basically made some broad fact sheets about what you need to know. And so this is a pretty good example of what I was talking about in terms of chunking. Every single popular topic looks exactly like this. I just chose child support because it is by far the most popular topic people look for. 1 out of every 3 people who come to the front page of Georgia Gov click on collecting or paying child support. So as you see, we've got a really simple definition here of, all right, what does it do? Oh, okay, DHS is child support services helps you collect. Every single popular topic has a what you should know. And there are the bullets. We bolded some things that we think they need to pay attention to. Collect any relevant documents, especially like the whole secure ID thing for driver services, probably a good example as well. You need to get those documents in order. This is always popular. Little or no cost. Everybody loves that. We should probably put like free and blinking text if we like blinking text, but we don't like blinking text. We don't do that. FAQs. You know, people like FAQs. And how do I file for child support? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how you do it. We have any agency that's associated with child support, obviously Division of Child Support Services, any online forms that they may need to download and fill out, and then actual online services that they can access and do transactions online. And what's good about this, Christina alluded to it earlier, once we go to responsive, these chunks, you can now start looking at it in terms of how you want them displayed. And if you want the most important things first, then you can actually dictate that. And if you actually saw this on a mobile device, these things go to the bottom. We put these what you should know and important FAQs first. The rest of this goes to the bottom. So if they want to continue to scroll, they can. Searching and meta tags. I talked a little bit about the Google secret sauce. Nobody knows how to get to the top of the Google search results. It's kept in some vault somewhere, I'm sure. And every once in a while, they'll tinker with it. Somebody thinks they figured it out, and then they change it. We're still trying to figure out what works with what we call the big Google in the sky, Google.com. Everybody goes there. I mentioned that search is king, and so we try to tailor everything to search. So in the past, we thought that the big Google in the sky really liked metadata. You surround your content with big keywords. And sometimes in the old days, you'd see like at the bottom of the page, you'd see like 50 or 60 keywords, in the hopes that Google would somehow catch one of those keywords and throw it up to the top of the search results. We would put lots of meta tags about titles and descriptions. Most people think that really doesn't work anymore for the big Google. Now, if you're on the Drupal platform using Georgia Gov to host your website, you have what we call the Google Search Appliance, which is sort of like a little mini Google in the sky. It sits in our data center and crawls your site constantly, looking for any new content. And so when somebody goes to your website searching for information, that Google Search Appliance is actually returning search results. We are finding that metadata is actually working for this, for Google Search Appliance. This can actually help you move relevant content up in your search results. So let's say if you've got a piece of content associated with a certain keyword, let's go back to vaccinations. If you really want something to be associated with vaccinations, you can actually go into Drupal and start putting in some words that will help describe that content and help move that move the content up search results. Something you can do right now. So it's not a big deal. It's if you've got a lot of content, yes, but you may want to start focusing on just the most visited content right now and try to make that as easily accessible via search results as possible. Tables and PDFs. I'll first talk about tables, and then I'll talk about my utter hatred for PDFs in just a second. I'm sure everyone's going to go, I love PDFs. Tables are for data. just like Microsoft Excel. You know, you've got a row over here, you've got a column over here, the two meet in the middle, and you've got something there, right? You probably see a lot of these on things like SurveyMonkey, any kind of software as a service where they're wanting you to verify a plan. Okay, if I want forms and I want 5 of them, oh, starter. So this is displaying data very easily. They've done a good job of highlighting it, which one they want you to do, of course. This is a good example of how you can use a table. And that's the way it always was supposed to be. And once we move to responsive design, tables will look okay. Got that covered. But going from the Stone Age into the holy crap age, people started figuring out, oh, wow, we can start manipulating things if we use tables. We can start controlling layout. You know, if we wanted to put something up in the top left, like a blinky text of a construction worker, we can put that up there in a table cell. And we can have a lot of blank table cells over here, and then we can put something over here. And so we're actually starting to control layout. And for a while, that's actually the way websites were created, until somebody raised their hand and went, that's terrible. It's a terrible idea. And there are a couple of reasons. One is accessibility. Screen readers have a really difficult time looking at content within a tabular format. And another thing is, any of you who know HTML know that first you have to define a table, and then you have to define a table row, and then you have to define maybe a table header and a table cell, and there are TDs and TRs and /TRs. Remember what I'm talking about page size? I mean, there's a lot of information there, and it's just not a good way to do things. Yet this is a good example where you could probably do it a lot easier just with the name of the person, a dash, person's name, and a telephone number. But this is in a table. So it's taking up a lot of your page size, difficult to read, accessibility-wise. So try to avoid this. Really is what I'm saying. I know sometimes it looks better, but especially with some of the themes we have, we set up tables to display data, and it's not going to look good if you're trying to display content that way. Okay, I think I'm running out a little bit out of time, so I'm going to try to be quick about PDFs. This is what a PDF looks like on an iPhone. If you've ever tried to look at a PDF on an iPhone, bring it up, do the little thingy where you try to make it bigger and bigger and bigger until you can finally read it. And then you have to scroll to the right, get to the end of the sentence. It's like an old typewriter. Scroll back to the left. And then you have to scroll down this way. Really difficult to do. In government, we love PDFs. Oh my God, there's PDFs everywhere. And I think it just goes back to our need for paper. We love paper. And PDF is sort of like paper on the web. So we want you to download a PDF and waste paper and print it and read it and fill out a form and then fax it to us and mail it to us. I've seen PDFs with 1 paragraph on it. Yeah, you need PDFs for manual. Big, long rules and regulations that are 50 pages long. Yeah, I mean, for regulatory agencies sometimes, and you need that. I'm not saying you need to get rid of everything. But even annual reports, we're finding ways to do that online. We have a book module as part of Drupal where you can actually show book-type information on a web page. So, again, thinking mobile. Do we really need a PDF for this? Can we just create a page on our website for people to look at? And if it's responsive, then you won't have to sit here and do the little thumb and forefinger trying to read everything. All right, quickly to wrap up. Now what? Everybody's excited about it. Everybody's like, great, when do we get it? When do we get it? So, we've got 12 themes now. 12 themes that we need to convert. Christina mentioned that we have a developer who is working on this right now. We've got 1 theme finished. But this takes a little bit of time, obviously. getting the right code in there, making sure that it works on the different breakpoints for the devices. Does it look okay on an iPhone? Does it look okay on an iPad? A lot of testing goes into that. So once we convert these themes, it's going to be a lot like the Drupal migration. We're going to convert these sites in stages. So once we have the themes ready, we're going to notify you. There'll be a schedule where we'll say, all right, you're set to go October 5th, December 1st, whatever. We're actually going to sit down with you and talk about how this is going to work for your particular website. Every single website is different. And so there's not going to be a lot of change in the look and feel, but the content is really going to make a big difference here. Christina mentioned that you've got a lot of things on the home page, but you need to figure out what's the most important thing you want to show. What's going to be up there at the top? What needs to go after that? Decisions on how your content's going to flow. There are going to be some things that you may be doing right now within Drupal that you may need to modify. Things regarding the way your images look that we can go over with you and talk about. And so these are not roadblocks. These are not things that will prevent you from going, but there are things that we need to discuss. So, like the migration, we'll talk to you, figure out exactly what the requirements are for how your site is going to look, and then we'll start the process. Desktop, laptop, those are probably going to look exactly the same as it does right now. It's really what we've been talking about, the tablet and the mobile, which is going to be a difference. Not going to be a change in color, not going to be a change in font. If you're on Patriotic 1 right now, that's Patriotic 1. You're still going to have pretty much the same style. So stay tuned. Really is the last thing I really want to tell you is that we are going to roll out a schedule, let you know where you are in the queue, and when you expect to actually be converted to these themes. But this was just a good introduction, really, to what you need to do to get ready. If you do all of these things that I've been talking about, it's going to make things a whole lot easier. And that's really the important thing. It'll make things easier for you, make things easier for us. It'll make the whole process go a lot quicker. That's all I have. So, does anybody have any questions, really, about this or about really anything that we've talked about today? Yes.
You know, our site is niche, so family content. Is it one of those points where you only use it first and have nothing to make change on the process over?
Yeah, the question was, with DCH, there's so much content. Would you recommend bringing users in and actually trying to do all of this beforehand? Right. The more you can do, the better. I mean, obviously, with a site like DCH or DHS, it's a big lift, and so trying to whittle down the content, trying to simplify some of the information architecture are probably some of the big things that you can work on. I mean, trying to get rid of a lot of content at this point, maybe more of a long-term objective, because they really do need to talk to the stakeholders and the subject matter experts who say, no, we don't want that up there. That's going to have to be more of a negotiation, I guess, as to how it's going to work. Anybody else? All right. You want to say something to wrap up with?
Awesome, thank you. Just wanted to wrap up today. Thank you so much for coming in and spending all this time with us. Hopefully, we kind of wanted to communicate what we were seeing as we were working on all the websites as far as the trends were concerned. And I'm hoping everyone is excited. At some point, we will be rolling this out, and you will be, enjoying the fact that your website is responsive and you have a good mobile presence. There were a couple of things that we kind of chose not to address today because they are not something that this team works on. If you need to talk to us about applications and how applications need to be, maybe coded or rewritten to be mobile friendly, we would love to have that conversation with you. We have a team that exclusively works in that, and we work with them to kind of come up with the best practices. Anyone here who is not on the portal environment right now? Okay, awesome. So essentially the templates and everything is going to be rolled out for the Georgia Gov portal environment, but we would love to kind of have a conversation with you all if you have any specific questions about your website being responsive, and if you want to be there as far as mobile is concerned. And hopefully you all had a good time, enjoyed the food, and food for thought. Just wanted to give a shout out to Pooja and Bethany for doing an awesome job and putting this together. It was pretty easy for us to just kind of show up and talk here without worrying about everything else. So thank you all. Kendra, Jenna, I'm sorry, we have a new intern. She's just joined our team, Rachel. Thank you all for putting this together. This has been awesome, and we're going to be doing this every quarter. So look out for the next announcement and do sign up. We are going to be following up with a survey. We want to know what you thought about it, and so please do that. Look out for an email Pooja might send out to everyone who is here. We have a list, and please make sure you just take a couple minutes to kind of give us your feedback. We would love to know what you thought about it. If you have any further suggestions, by all means let us know. And again, thank you so much.